You're listening to Just My Show, your number one source for pop culture.
So let's go back to the very beginning. Hard enough to land a role based on, just talent. Harder when you're playing a twin, I would think, in that, no, you're not identical twins, but obviously they're looking for a specific look, which isn't unusual, but it really narrows down the field. So I guess it could help or hurt depending on the type of look the other guy has that they're going for.
This is true. And if you saw Danny Ponce now, and you thought that we didn't look like twins then, he is about 6'1", 200 plus pounds. Big boy. He and I, by the way, still like the best of friends. We actually never lost touch and remain very close to this day. It's funny. That audition process for the Hogan family, which at the time was Valerie, was a really interesting process because I went on 2 auditions on my own, and then on the 3rd audition they paired me up with Danny. And I remember thinking, we're supposed to be twins, and this guy is Latin, and I'm pretty straight Caucasian guy, and what are they going for here? And yet he was the most outgoing guy I had ever met in my life, just kind of wild and a wacky guy. And we were paired up, like I said, from the 3rd audition on, and I think it was a total of 8 auditions before we booked it. And we had no idea that Jason Bateman was even attached to it or anything like that. But it was unbelievable. And obviously we're in every scene together. So we were either going to love each other or hate each other. And growing up like that, we sometimes had both, sort of like brothers. But at the end of the day, we remain very close. We're very close to, like I said, to this day. He's got 2 kids now and a wonderful wife, and is doing really well. So, there's some kudos to him. Maybe you can interview him. He's a fun interview as well.
I would definitely look forward to that. So
okay.
I want to bring up something that I brought up with Family Ties creator Gary David Goldberg when he was on the podcast.
Okay.
Hard enough for a show to just be funny, and hard enough for a show just to have some of those great emotional moments. Not many shows can do both, or at least do them well. This one did. Often in the very same episode. For example, the Hogan versus Hogan episode when your character takes David to court for $42 because he let your pet lizard die when he was watching it. You were absolutely hilarious in the courtroom scene. Then later you sort of had that touching moment between Big Brother and Little Brother when you make up. As an actor, even a young one, that has to sort of be a dream come true scenario for you, right?
Well, it really was, and I'm extremely proud of the show that we did. We really, there were some things that were a little bit outlandish and crazy about it, but we really tried to be as truthful as possible, and that was really something. When I originally started working on the show, I was 12, I was 14, and basically went from 14 to almost 20, and they, the writers and the producers and, some of the leads, Valerie in the beginning and Sandy and Jason and Josh, who played our dad, really fought to keep things as real as possible. And, again, it made really good comedy for one brother to take the other brother to court. But, as I remember the episode, and it's funny because now, you can watch all these things on YouTube, and it's really amazing because I haven't seen these in 15, 20 years, so to watch them is kind of a trip. But, we really tried to be as authentic as we could, where, there are things where brothers hurt each other's feelings. Families do not always get along, and it's not always pretty. But, at the end of the day, it is a 22-minute episode, and things do wrap up. But like I said, I appreciate, first of all, I appreciate being spoken of in the same sentence as Gary David Goldberg, my goodness. We did work very hard to try to keep that authenticity.
So when you look at most family shows, it's usually a mix of brothers and sisters, which I guess probably gives a wider audience something to relate to. A couple shows with brothers, but none with 3 that I can remember. You have a brother, at least one that I know of, who I know did some acting as well, so you know what that dynamic's like. Do you feel like having the brother dynamic sort of give the show a little something different, set up scenarios and relationships that you didn't see on every other family sitcom?
Well, I think so. We had the opportunity where, we had Jason Bateman playing the older brother, and, he was really an older brother in that sense. And it's kind of funny because I am actually the oldest of I have one younger brother, and Danny has one older sister and several younger brothers and sisters, so he's sort of on the older side as well. So we booked this show, and all of a sudden we got an older brother that we never bargained for, because we were sort of, at the head of the totem pole, and then all of a sudden relegated to the bottom. But I do think that it opened up a lot of doors, and especially as we got older, both, in chronologically and let's say in real life, as well as aging on the show, where it did open doors. Jason was his own character. My character obviously was more on the straight end. Danny's character, Willie, was more, sort of outgoing and kind of crazy and loose. And I think that the dynamic between the three enabled them to write us into all kinds of different scenarios, but again, trying to play, make it as authentic as possible. There were times when it did get stretched, where things seemed a little unrealistic, but I would say that was pretty rare, that we really tried to stay as faithful to our characters without just being sort of painted into a box.
For more, go to www.justmyshow.com.